It's 11:30.
This is Jenny Swatzel, and we welcome you to the NAMI San Antonio August General Meeting. Next slide. Before we get started, we'd like your help with a housekeeping matter. Chat us your first name and zip code so we can take attendance. On a personal computer, hover on the Zoom screen, tap the chat icon, type your name and zip code and hit enter. On a mobile device, tap your phone screen, then tap the three dots for more options. Tap on chat and then type your name and zip code and hit enter. Next. Our agenda today will be a welcome, some current announcements, introduction of our presenters, our feature presentation, a question and answer session, final announcements, and closing. Next slide. And another housekeeping announcement to remember to type your first name and zip code so we can take attendance. Next slide. Are you interested in volunteering for NAMI San Antonio? Are you ready to get started? Please go to our website and click on Get Involved and scroll down to Volunteer. Click on Volunteer and it will let you know how to sign up, and the contact information is there on the screen if you want to take a screenshot. Next slide. And I would like to turn the meeting over to our board president, Mr. Doug Beach.
Thank you, Janie, and thank you everybody for joining us today for the August general meeting. Today we're going to hear about Bridges to Care, and we'll hear about them. We'll hear from our panel momentarily. I have two quick announcements I'd like to make on the front end here. We're going to be starting a Spanish family-to-family class August 24th. And so if you'd like to join that class or have somebody that you know that would like to attend a Spanish language family class, have them call the NAMI office and select extension 102. That'll be our educational line. And we'll be happy to take that reservation. Secondly, there's also going to be a focus group meeting this Friday at 1 p.m. And this is a new focus. This is a focus group for sacred.org mental health portal. And this is a portal that's under development, and we want to test drive it. We want to get some people on it to give us some feedback on how good that portal works. And if you want to participate in that focus group, you need to call Susan Corbell at 210-366-4210. That's 210-366-4210. You can call Susan, and we need about 12 people to be part of that focus group. So at this point, I want to go ahead and turn it over to, I want to introduce our panel today. And we're going to talk about, they're going to talk to us about Bridges to Care, which we started in San Antonio a year ago at the Pathways Conference, when we looked at what St. Louis was doing to help form congregations into cohorts and to help train people in mental health support inside their congregations and inside their neighborhoods. And so three of the people that have been intimately involved with this and helped roll this out, Jerry Gregory, Veron Blue, and Reverend Justin Lindstrom, are going to talk to us about Bridges to Care. It's been a phenomenal success. It's grown well beyond what any of us thought it would do in the short time period that we've been engaged with this. And so I'm going to turn this over to, I guess it'll go to Jerry first. And I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves, and they'll give you just a brief snippet about their own background. So Jerry, would you like to pick it up from here?
Sure. I'm Jerry Gregory, and I've been with Bridges to Care since October 1st, 2020. That's the opening day of business, and I am the project coordinator. Ron?
Hello, I am Veron Blue, and I am the cohort coordinator. I'm with Family Life International Ministries.
And I'm Justin Lindstrom. I am an Episcopal priest at Christ Episcopal Church, and I've been a part of this movement from the beginning as well on the steering committee and the Behavioral Health Network. We're really happy to be here with you all today.
Next slide. So the origin of Bridges to Care San Antonio, it has been talked about since 2016 between Doug Beach and Ann Helmke of San Antonio, but it came to fruition at last year's Pathways to Hope Mental Wellness Conference when Doug Beach, Ann Helmke, and Jermaine Alberty touched base at a breakout session and start talking about how it could happen in San Antonio and how we could mimic the Bridges to Care initiative model in St. Louis. So that's how it originated, and here we are 10 months later, and we'll tell you more about it in current slides. Next slide, please.
So the vision for Bridges to Care is that we would gather people together in cohorts around the city, and really it's a movement to help us reduce the stigma of mental illness, provide early recognition on mental health issues, prevent mental health crises. One of the things that we've found is that a lot of times people can't get the help or the resources they need early on in their mental health, and it ends up becoming a crisis where they have to call 911. And so we're hoping that Bridges to Care and our wellness champions would be basically first responders with folks to help them not ever get to that crisis mode. And so we're looking at that as a very key piece of the vision of who we are. And also, we really want to enhance the opportunity for wellness and meaningful lives across our community, and not just in mental health, but in all aspects of health. We gather in cohorts of 8 to 10 faith and spiritual communities and organizations. They're all geographically located and have geographic proximity. So we're really trying to make this a grassroots neighborhood movement where one neighborhood knows their neighborhood better than another. And so you can't really put a big umbrella on the issues for the whole city. It has to be neighborhood by neighborhood. And that's how I think that's really the key vision of Bridges to Care that sets us apart from any other program or movement within the city. Next slide. So our mission is that we would build connections between the congregations and service providers. For a long time, like for myself as an Episcopal priest, it's oftentimes felt like an us and them kinds of configuration, that clergy would have one way of dealing with mental illness and mental health, and service providers would have another way. What we're trying to do is now build a bridge between those two and come to a place of working together and a better connection between the two. We also want to train people to be companions, that they can walk alongside folks and have the tools that they need to be an effective partner and companion walking the road of mental health. We want to bring hope and compassion to our city through these cohorts that will work in the neighborhoods. And we're looking to have at least one cohort, if not multiple cohorts, in every city council district. So that's 10 districts, multiply that by a cohort or two in each one. We could have 20, maybe 30, 40 cohorts working within each of the city districts. And then the biggest thing I think is that wellness champions and cohorts would have resources that are available. So when we're working with people and being a companion with someone, that we would know how to steer them in the right direction for their continued wellness, not just their mental health, but their physical health, spiritual health, and more. So that's our mission. And and we're actively working towards accomplishing that. Next slide.
And listed here are organizations that are part of our behavioral health network and function also as the advisory group for Bridges to Care. These are community organizations who make significant investments in mental health of our city. We meet monthly, we share best practices, and Bridges to Care is able to provide feedback to this group of what's actually happening on the ground with mental illness. In other words, we keep it real. We tell them the real story. We know what theory is, and we tell them what's the real practice that's happening in our communities. And we address and resolve issues such as pre-crisis care in the community. As you all know, Doug Beach is a huge advocate of pre-crisis. Well, last month, and he's been saying that, and last month, Clarity introduced Next Steps program, which directly deals with the pre-crisis. That's the kind of work that we do. We work together. We address issues such as mental health resources for children and youth. Where does the community go for pre-crisis help? Shelter beds for those with mental health needs, and many, many other critical issues that pertains to our community. So together, we co-labor to be a stronger and more compassionate community to serve the needs of our city. Next slide.
So this is our working model. We call it our circular chart. If you start at the beginning, you see the heart of the chart, which is Bridges to Care. And we are partnered with San Antonio, the city of San Antonio, with Bexar County. And we help those individuals who are in need of mental health support, which is then surrounded by the congregational cohorts Justin was just talking about. We surround the people that need mental health with love and training, and then surrounding the cohorts are the community outreach workers. There is one community outreach worker assigned to each city district in San Antonio, and through them we have a direct line to help those that have homeless issues and other issues that go along hand in hand with mental health issues. And surrounding them, we have our Bridges to Care project coordinator, me. We have Veron Blue, our cohort coordinator, and we have supervisors from the city of San Antonio and our faith-based liaison, Ann Helmke. And then surrounding everything with Bridges to Care are our partners. And those are people that are on the Behavioral Health Network. They are organizations, and they are also individuals and organizations that have helped to fund Bridges to Care San Antonio to date. Next slide. So the core of Bridges to Care San Antonio is training. We have 5 training modules that we offer free of charge because of those funding partners. First one is building a behavioral health program for spiritual and faith communities, and also how to use a special thing we have in San Antonio called sacred.org, San Antonio Community Resource Directory. That is a 3-hour module, and it is presented currently by Reverend Jermaine Alberti of Pathways to Promise and SALT Initiative. The second module is Companionship Training, which is 4 hours, and it teaches people how to walk alongside those with mental health concerns. It's a very effective module that we consider to be the core of what we're about, and it's 4 hours, and also presented by Reverend Jermaine Alberti of Pathways to Promise and SALT Initiative. The third module is Mental Health First Aid, and that is the one that has national CEU credits. It's given by Bexar County's Center for Healthcare Services. If we were to do it in person, we're doing them all in Zoom right now. But if we were doing it in person, it would be 8 hours long, but we're able to offer it on Zoom for 6.5 hours. Plus they do 2 hours of pre-course training. Number 4 is becoming a trauma-informed organization or congregation. It's offered by the Ecumenical Center, and it is an hour-and-a-half long. And then the last module we offer is suicide prevention, which is 2 hours long and also presented by the Ecumenical Center. Next slide.
So Jerry just told you about the training, and I just have to add an anecdote to that. I thought 20 hours of sitting in Zoom would just be awful and would be a detriment to my mental health. And actually, it was a blessing, a true blessing. The training is excellent. It's informative and incredibly good. And I wish I had that training earlier on in my ordained ministry. So I'm thankful for that. So if 20 hours seems daunting to you, it really is something that can be tackled in smaller chunks, and it's not really that bad. It's really a great opportunity. When you go through the training, you're going to become a wellness champion, and wellness champions are not. They don't have to be mental health professionals. That's not our desire, is to create a bunch of mental health professionals that we're giving them more training. We love to have mental health professionals alongside us, but we're really looking for just regular people like myself that have a desire to help others and to walk with others, to give them some tools that they can use to be a better companion. And so some of the characteristics of a wellness champion would be someone who is focused on wellness. And so I always say, if you take the I out of illness and replace it with we, you get wellness. And so this is a we thing. We're not asking people to do the work alone. We're asking people to partner with other wellness champions, work within their cohort to create wellness within their communities. We're also focused on wholeness. So it's a physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual, as well as economic way of doing things. And so, it's not just mental health, it's physical health, intellectual health, economic health, you name it. We're really looking at the whole person. We want people who are interested in being caregivers and helping others and caring for others and being really focused on that. We also are hope. We believe that our wellness champions, they don't just offer hope, they are hope. When you talk to a wellness champion, they're willing to listen to you, they're willing to hear your story, and they want to walk with you, and they're not going to let you go. It's not going to be, a 5-minute conversation and say, see you later, good luck. We're people who we will actually walk across the bridge to the other side with you, from one side of despair to the other side of hope. We also think that wellness champions are people who think of others with dignity. So everyone is made in the image of God, that we're all a part of a family. We all come from different backgrounds. We all have different faiths and religions and practices, but we all are made in the image of God, and we all are the image of God. When we're talking to each other and listening to each other, we are hearing the voice of God and the stories of God back and forth. We're people of respect, and so we're going to listen and care and try to understand other people's stories and try to help them share their story in a way that it becomes part of our story, right? And so that takes active listening and creativity and that respect. We invite all of our wellness champions to be in covenant with each other. So there's a commitment and accountability of being a wellness champion. And so we really do live into that covenant together as wellness champions. There's an openness that we have, that we're transformed by how we meet people, and we're transformed by where they tell us where they want to go. we don't make the assumption that these are your goals, right? We actually listen to folks to hear what their goals are and help them connect to the resources that they need in order to achieve their goals, whatever that might be in their health and wellness path. And that dovetails right into connection. Our wellness champions are the bridge. They're willing to lay down and let someone walk across their back to get to the other side. We literally are the bridge. We know the resources. We know where people can go to get help. We're willing to help them find the ride to get there, to make the connections at every level, so that they can be bridged to the resources that they need. We are service providers and first responders, pre-crisis workers. We're folks with a servant's heart, and all of our wellness champions have that posture. They're here to serve, and we're resources. We not only develop resources for our area, but we also, again, know how to use sacred.org. We might even create resources at our own congregations or within our cohorts that would be available to specific geographic areas within our city. And so it's a great opportunity to be a resource to others and for others. And we're people of trust. We trust the process. So we look at the training modules and we say, you know what, I'm going to go through those. I'm going to trust that they're going to be good, and they are. We're going to trust our learning and what we are learning together. And we're going to share with one another, and we trust the sphere of influence that we have. You know, you might be thinking, well, I don't know that many people, and I sit in the back at my church, and I really am not involved in that kind of thing. You have a sphere of influence that is significant. Everybody does. And our wellness champions learned that, wow, what I do and how I share love into the world and hope into the world and resources in the world, that allows me to have a sphere of influence that's greater than you'd ever expect. And then we wellness champions are people of resilience. We're flexible and adaptable, which you have to be when you're working with all sectors of the population. You're going to meet people that are at very different places than where maybe we are. And you might meet people who are exactly in the same place that you are in their health and wellness. And being able to adapt to situations and be flexible around it is just an incredible thing. You know, my church, we run a program called Sidewalk Saturday, and we offer groceries and breakfast tacos and coffee and clothing and toiletries and prayers. And we have social workers out on the property every Saturday. And I've seen with our wellness champions who have been trained that they actually embody all of these things. They embodied those things prior to training, but after training, it was incredible to see how those gifts and talents that they had were unleashed, if you will, and brought out to the open. And it has changed the whole atmosphere of our Saturday morning ministry that we offer. There's a deeper trust, a deeper commitment between the people of the church who are there to serve and the people of our community who are there to receive help. And there's a level of wellness that we've never had before that we now are walking into. And it's just an incredible gift. It's because we have wellness champions who are willing to say, I'm open to this. I want to make the connections. I want to serve. I want to be a better caregiver. I want to be hope. And it's an incredible process. We'd love for you to become a wellness champion. And so we'll talk more about how you can get connected to that as we go through the slides. Next slide.
You've heard both Justin and Jerry speak about cohorts, and you will keep hearing this phrase when you talk about Bridges to Care, the cohort connection, because the true power of Bridges to Care lies within the cohort connections, where congregations or organizations who deeply care about the mental health issue in their community collaborate to bring change. As cohorts come together, we build community, we foster creativity, we build leadership skills, and encourage greater progress in addressing the needs of the mentally challenged in our community. Being in a cohort allow members of an organization to make connections with one another, support one another, work together to address the needs. We are like-minded people, and it exposes everyone to new experiences and new ideas, which leads to creative ways to implement mental health strategies. In other words, we want you to decide what's best for your community, what will touch and reach and create change in your community. In cohorts, we learn from each other, we network, we share our resources, and together we become a more powerful force to deal with the mental health challenges in our community. Building relationships with each other and the community are at the core of the cohorts, because building relationships, not conducting transactions, is the bedrock of healthy communities. This, ladies and gentlemen, is community transformation. This is what it looks like. And it all comes about when we create cohorts that support and help each other. You're about to look at a video with some of the wellness champions of one of the Bridges to Care cohorts in cohort 2. Trauma Talk and Bro Talk are 2 Zoom talks that this cohort has begun every week to educate their community. That was their vision, that was their goal. So let's take a look and listen to their stories. Next.
Can you all hear it? I don't think we can hear it.
No sound.
Still no sound.
So when you shared the screen, you would have had to pick to share the sound of the actual video.
You, Sydney, how has it impacted your life?
How it's impacted my life, Pastor V, has been as a nurse, as a healthcare professional, now I have learned to listen to people. I have now learned where I don't have to fix people, because Bridges to Care has given us the tool to how to interact with people,
Right.
and we don't have to be there to fix them.
Right.
They have put tools in place
Right.
where we can actually guide them there,
Right.
steer them in the right
Yeah,
direction.
Absolutely.
So that's how it's impacted me.
Absolutely.
No stress.
No stress. Andy, what about you?
Oh, Bridges to Care and the whole program has been something for us that's been, for me, it's given us a lot of tools.
Right.
You know, we were talking earlier about how we don't have enough counselors and things in
Right.
the churches. So what this does to me is it becomes like a force multiplier.
Wow.
So that it allows us to be able to have congregations and be able to put people in places to better meet the needs of their congregation and their community.
Absolutely, absolutely. What do you, Bill? What about you, Billy?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me and my wife, we've found ourselves looking back on situations where we had opportunity to help someone, but all we knew at that point in time is that we could pray for them and try to help them the best that we could.
Absolutely.
But now we have some things, some tools, we have things in
Resources,
place to
yes.
direct us on, you know, and how to recognize the different things that people are going through. But again, we're not there to fix them, but we're there to help them and send them on the right way and help them get professional help.
Billy seems to be on it. What do you think, best from that?
It's definitely had a big impact on my life. It's just phenomenal how much information we have learned. We still have a long ways to go, but the language, just being able to speak the language and being able to connect with people,
That is
be
so
sensitive to
true.
what they're going through, it's just been amazing.
It's been, I love the term that you use, language. We now have a language to communicate and to talk
Yes.
about. And we've often wondered why there was so much stigma and silence in our communities about mental wellness. Well, if you don't know the language of something, you will not talk about it.
That's
But so
true.
Bridges to Care has given us the language that we can sit here and talk about mental illness today.
Yes.
But Sydney, I know you recently had an incident with a young lady where your trauma, where all the truths that you've learned of mental illness helped you to help her. Tell us a little bit about what happened.
Well, the young lady opened up on a forum on Trauma Talk where she felt safe to open up how she was going through depression, how she was going through anxiety, how she was sad. She had just actually lost, she had lost 2 family members to a traumatic event. And they was back to back. Her husband was away on military education.
Wow.
So she's in this apartment by herself.
Wow.
So nobody there, and I really believe she was in a safe place. She opened up immediately after Trauma Talk. She was assigned 4
Right.
wellness champions.
The Circle of Care.
The Circle of Care, where she received calls. Everybody took turns calling her, talking to her, encouraging her, and listening to her, and was really actually able to pick up where she needed help, where she felt safe, and she can actually open up. And eventually she did end up going to get help.
Wow.
And end up going to the hospital, end up with a counselor on the right medication
Right.
and everything. So,
Right.
and even also with Trauma Talk, I really thought was so awesome is because Trauma Talk had a therapist, she was even actually able to connect to the therapist. And one thing about Bridges to Care would really help, again, our training kicked in
Right.
because it was science recommended, and we had somebody that we can go to and say, hey, what do you think?
Right.
We had somewhere a direction to go. We had the tools in place to send her. It was just awesome.
And she had said that she would just go check herself
Yes.
into the hospital just so she wouldn't harm herself.
Right.
That's how it had gotten. So where is she now?
Right now, she is with her husband. She is in therapy. She's got a regular counselor. Her meds is helping her.
Yeah.
Every time I talk to her, she talked to her how that one night, and how the Circle of Care and the people around her, that she know it was God that led her, and how she felt safe to open up to us. I mean, she opened up to the whole forum, but we made her feel safe.
There
And
it
that's
is.
something they taught
And
us.
there was no judgment. She felt safe talking to us, and yeah.
There it
That's
is
a
right
great
there.
story.
Yeah.
Now, Andy, you're
Give
a
them a whistle.
counselor and that have gone through the program.
Yes.
So can you tell everyone how this training has affected you personally?
Yeah,
already being a counselor.
The training is great. We already talked about how it becomes more of a force multiplier. But you also have all these great resources and all these great tools that you can now bring to bear upon the situations that you come into.
Yeah.
And then, so now we're not only able to speak the language, but we got people now that can be trained to help us meet the needs of our congregation and of our communities at large. That's
Right.
the bigger purpose,
Right.
I think,
Absolutely.
behind all of it too. So fantastic. Couldn't imagine. The training was awesome and wonderful.
Yeah, and now you are one of the hosts for Bro Talk.
Yeah.
Tell us, because brothers don't talk.
Right.
How did you
Yeah,
get
they do.
men? Yes!
Yeah, and that's kind of the purpose of Bro Talk, is to get men to communicate, to get them to open up, to be able to address some issues that, that they have, but they're, reticent to talk about. And once we can give them a safe space, the idea is give them a safe space so they can
That's
open
it
up.
right there.
And we see
Yeah.
this with Trauma Talk in general, right? Where we
Yes.
had the ability to start to educate and then open up a forum for questions and people to share their experiences so that, the counselors and therapists can be able to bring that knowledge that we've learned from these classes and we'll
Yes.
plug in with that
Oh.
information to meet the needs of people.
Absolutely,
But Brother
it
Talk,
works.
got to
It-
get those guys to talk.
We got to get these guys to talk, brothers. I just absolutely love this because Trauma Talk and Bro Talk, as you call it, was all birthed out of the
Yes,
training that
absolutely.
we received.
Yes.
We're like,
Yeah.
how
Yes.
can we make this knowledge usable
Yes.
for the average person?
Yes.
And so we created forums, and it all birthed out of it. Now, Renee, I know you and Billy had an experience with someone that you knew. So tell us what happened. How did Bridges to Care help you to help them become
Well,
whole?
I was going to say, Pastor, little did we know, pretty much maybe a month after we completed the Bridges to Care training, we received a call from our barber, and he was calling us to let us know that he wanted to cancel our appointments, our upcoming appointments. He said he was clearing off his calendar and that he needed to take some time off from work. He said that he was just not in a good place and he needed to just take time off from work. And when we heard him say that, it was like the training just kicked in, because it's like, we know this person never takes off from work.
Right.
For you to clear your calendar and say you're not gonna be working anymore, that's
Something's wrong,
something's
yeah,
up.
yeah.
We've known him for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Oh,
20
wow.
plus years. So it's like, what's going on? So anyway, I texted him later. I was like, can I call you back? And he said, yes, we can talk later. So when I reached out to him, he explained to me some of the stuff that he was going through. He said he was depressed, very anxious, and he was like, sounding really, really bad. So I asked him the question. I was like, sir, are you like actually thinking about suicide?
Because they do
afraid-
teach us to
Right,
ask
and
that
that was-
question.
that was
I
one of
wasn't
the
afraid to
things-
ask the question.
Yeah, that was one of the things from the training that, I mean, you literally are not, you're reluctant to ask that question because
yes.
you think you're imparting that to someone. And when she asked him that, it was like he responded, and he didn't get crazy about it. He responded with no.
He's like, no, it hasn't gone that far, but I am, not in a good place.
Wow.
And when we asked him, he's like, well, so what is it that we can do to help you out? And he's like, I've tried to contact the VA, and the earliest that they can get me in, I think it was like 3 weeks from that time.
Yeah,
It's
it
like,
was
this isn't
such a
gonna
long
work for you.
time.
Wow.
So at that point, that's when I reached out to you, Pastor Reed, and it's like, I was asking, what can we do to try and get some help for this person? Because we knew that if he went any longer without getting the assistance he needed, it was gonna be something pretty serious.
Oh, wow.
And so that next day, we were able to actually get him connected with help.
Yeah.
But we went through some changes because it wasn't, it was just up and down, kind of like getting the right person assigned to him with, the ability for him to be able to, get to pay for the care.
Right.
And so we did have some challenges with that. And so, but the fact that we went through this training, knew how to observe, knew to act on what we observed, it was a world of difference.
Wow.
So I know that we made a major difference.
Yes.
In this.
Now,
But
where is he now?
he is actually he's in the Bahamas. Right?
On vacation.
They're on vacation right now, and he's doing a whole lot better.
I was so sorry.
Yes.
That's a
He's doing a
wonderful.
lot better.
That's a wonderful story, and that's what Bridges to Care does best.
Yeah.
It prepares us to intervene when someone is beginning that downward spiral. It helps us to help others so they don't get to that critical stage.
Yeah.
I know, Renee, you mentioned about your job and your boss heard you talking. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, actually, in one of my one-on-one sessions with my manager, I was explaining to him that I had completed this training, and he was very interested in what I had to say about it. And he, at the end of the conversation, he was saying that there was someone on our team that he wanted me to have conversation with because he had noticed that this person was kind of like, not the same, right?
Wow.
He was kind of exhibiting some unusual behavior, and so he asked me to reach out to this person and have a conversation with him. So I told him, it's like, it wasn't a problem to do it. I was going to do it with not just him, but other people on the team, because I had, seen noticed other people going through some things. So that's been my mission, basically. It's not just to use it, in the local community, but on my job, wherever I can apply it, I'm applying it. So
Wherever there are
training.
people,
Yes.
we need you.
Yes.
They need Bridges to Care.
Yes.
That is so true. I oftentimes say Bridges to Care, it is pre-crisis, and so it literally prevents people from getting to that crisis critical stage where they have to go be hospitalized or the police come to get them. How effective is Bridges to Care, do you think, in preventing that crime?
It's interesting you say that, Pastor V. I've been a nurse for 30-some years, and I mean, at night I see the mental health crisis come in our emergency room, and the problem coming to a regular emergency room is that you have nurses and staff that are not trained, first of all, to care for a mental health person in crisis. So about all we can do, and then because there's not enough facilities in the city to take people in crisis. I mean, we have them hold over in our ER. They can be held over for days until a bed become available. And if they don't have private insurance, you have to try to find a facility that will take them. You know, the facilities we do have in the city, you know, you have to have insurance.
Wow.
So you have to wait till one of the city facilities have a bed available. So we might hold a suicide watch or a person that's in a manic phase in our ER for a couple of days until we get a bed. So here's number one, you got staff that's not trained to even equip or train to take care of a person in crisis mode. So
we need to take Bridges to Care even to hospital staff, because we need to train nurses about how to deal with people that are mentally ill.
It's a lot of education.
It's a lot.
it's
yes,
a lot of
it's a
education.
lot of
But the
education
circle of
that's
care,
needed.
but like you say, the circle of care, if you can catch that person before they get to crisis mode,
Yes.
then, I mean, because the staff, so you're short of staff, they're overfilled. I mean, so really you don't have that time to really take care, I mean, to give the time that you need to take care of a patient in crisis. So, I mean, the circle of care bridges the care and catching people in that pre-crisis mode is so important, putting family around them, putting community around them, so they don't even get to that point. So you can call their psychiatrist, or when they go to the emergency room, they're not in a pre-crisis mode, and you can get somebody and get medication or whatever you need prescribed for them, and get them in a place and de-escalate
Well,
the
we
system.
just recently met with someone who had bipolar disorder, and we created a circle of care.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened. What is that circle of care that we talked about?
Basically, there was an individual that was on the call that mentioned that she had a plan in place. It's called RAT.
Okay.
And I don't recall what the letter stood
Right.
for, but basically it's you putting together a plan for the person, you know, just to make sure that you are able to assess if they're actually going into a crisis situation, when they get into the crisis situation, when they come out of it.
Right.
What is it that we can do to have a plan in place, have people in place, have, you know, let the doctors know what's going on with the person, have information about their meds and all of that. So it's something that basically you just have a plan, over a holistic plan that's there to make sure that they're taking care of that person.
She even
24/7.
told us, she said she has a daughter. She said, when I exhibit these signs, I am in that pre-crisis mode.
Yeah.
And so she said, when you see this is what you do to de-escalate me.
Oh.
And this is whom you call this lady and this number. She will come and get my child. And you can leave her with her. She will be fine. And this is what you can say to me to let me know that I'm having a crisis. She said, and so she said, I have the pre-crisis, then I have the full-blown disorder, then I have a post-crisis. And so she told us what to do in all phases. She gave us a number of her doctor, a physician,
That was
we can
awesome.
call him
Ahead
to
of
see
time.
to see
That is so
what is
true.
what we can do, what meds would he prescribe for her. Then we will go and physically give her the pills to ensure that she takes them. She told us all this. So it was a circle of care, so she never even gets to the critical mode.
Right.
That is pre-crisis. That is what Bridges to Care does best. So thank you all so much for tuning in with us today. We appreciate your time with us, and thank you for allowing us to share with you from our heart what Bridges to Care means to all of us. Thank you.
Next slide. Thank you so much for sharing that video with us, Veron. It is striking and shows us what happens in real time, in real life. I wanted to show this map to you. It's powered by sacred.org that created a dot for each congregation or organization in our city that has gone through or is going through Bridges to Care training. There are 30, you can see it's all over the city, and we still have a lot more work to do because there are areas of the city we haven't touched yet. We currently have now trained or are in the process of training 12 different congregations and organizations in our city, and we have 264 wellness champions that have gone through or are currently in training in only 10 months since October 1st. And we are doubling and tripling our training capacity in that we offer all 5 modules every single month. So we've got a new group of trainees going through training every single month. This month, the month of August, which is a slow month because it's summer, we have 53 wellness champions going through training, which is remarkable. We have 78 congregations that we have called and have expressed interest in Bridges to Care. And there's hundreds of other congregations and organizations that we haven't even touched. So imagine what we can do with what we have in the chutes and how much we've already done. So as I always say to Veron, the sky's the limit. We are continuing to send individuals through training and hope to do so for the next few years. Thank you. Next slide.
So as you can see, Bridges to Care is a significant movement within our city and county already in only 10 months. And I say it's a movement. We're not just a 90-day training program, even though there is training that goes along with it, but it's a movement of relationships where we're actually changing the culture of our city to where mental health is actually a common conversation that we would have amongst each other without stigma, but with friends and neighbors and how we can work together to help each other out. In the same way that we talk openly about what we had to eat the night before for dinner, we can also talk about how our therapist appointment went for our mental health. You know, that's the hope and the dream, is that all of the aspects of our human life would be welcomed and talked about openly within our culture and society. And it takes people like wellness champions to be trained to walk alongside other people and to be in relationship with one another. So in Ferguson, Missouri, after the riots broke out 8 years ago, St. Louis created a Bridges to Care movement as well. And 7 years later, they have over 70 congregations in 7 different cohorts. That's what success can look like. And we are well on our way to being similar to what they are doing already, even in a shorter amount of time. And you've heard the statistics, but each of those statistics is representative of a relationship the wellness champion is having with someone in your community to better our community and to make us better as a whole. So we are just so thankful that we've been able to present all of this to you. I know to some degree we're preaching to the choir. You all are well versed in mental health and what that is all about. But at the same time, we need you and want you to be a part of the Bridges to Care movement. And so if you have not been trained as a wellness champion, Jerry will put her email in the chat, I believe, won't you, Jerry? And
Yes.
And you can connect with her and she can get you connected to the training as well as to a cohort. And we'd also love to hear about your faith community. If you are a member of a faith community, we would love to be alongside you as an advocate to your clergy and to the leadership of your faith community to see how we can get your whole faith community involved with Bridges to Care. The movement is moving and we need your help to keep it going. So thank you so much for your time today. And I think there were a few questions in the chat that we can address as well.
So do we have any questions for Veron or Jerry or Justin? I see one question, which is resources and sacred.org. The URL is sacrd.org, not ed. So if you'll correct that, you can probably get to that page. Are there any questions for anybody?
There was a
There-
question in the chat for Veron about Trauma Talk. If Veron, you could share a little bit about what Trauma Talk is.
Oh, absolutely. Trauma Talk is a Zoom program that we do once a week, every Monday night from 7 until 8. And we usually have a therapist. Dr. Sunita is a resident therapist, so we have some other therapists, and we'll address a mental health issue that's specific to our community. We are mostly in a African-American community, so we discuss issues of trauma. We talked last night, as a matter of fact, about repurposing trauma. How can we repurpose the trauma that our community has been in? So next week, we'll continue that conversation. We talk about ACEs, and anyone can come on. It's free. It costs nothing. Anyone can come on. They can ask questions via chat. We'll answer questions. And sometimes if someone needs to see a therapist, the therapist will make themselves available to talk with that person at no cost. So we're here for the community, and it's a weekly talk show, because in our community, it's mental illness is a stigma. You don't talk about it, and it's shrouded in silence. And so we are just beginning to learn the language of mental illness, so we are talking about it. So it's our way of sharing it. So that's what Trauma Talk is. And as I said, it's weekly. It's every Monday night.
So I want
Go ahead,
I
Jerry.
just wanted to answer the question about how do we get families involved?
Yeah.
How do we contact people? Well, the first thing we do is contact a congregation, get them into training. When they go through training, they have wellness champions. And when they also go through training, they are designated as a behavioral health friendly congregation or organization. They are allowed to use the Bridges to Care logo. They are allowed to advertise that they are a safe place for individuals with mental health concerns. They are allowed to have whatever programs they would like to develop to attract individuals, whether outside of their congregation or inside of their congregation, to them to seek help. And the behavioral health friendly congregations that we have are currently listed on sacred.org and will be listed on our own website. So I hope that answers your question.
And I'll add to that, Jerry, that it happens very organically as well. So as people hear about, say, Bridges to Care, they hear about, like at Christ Episcopal Church, that our folks have been trained as wellness champions. We now have more people who want to become wellness champions. But we also have more conversation, just natural conversation about mental health. And that's when those within trusting relationships, people might mention, I really could use some help in different areas. And that's when we can connect people. So we're not putting up banners saying, hey, come talk to me. It's more relational. And that's what we mean by relational versus transactional. It's very organic. It happens differently for every family and every individual.
There was a question about finding information on a website about Bridges to Care. And if you go to NAMI-SAT.org and go to the tab across the top that says Bridges to Care, click on that. You'll find a lot of the information we've talked about today is on that website, along with contact information for Jerry.
I just put the URL in the chat.
Thank you. Are there other, go ahead, Janie.
And there was a question, how can the initial contact be made by a person to know about how you get their family member care?
That was just answered by contacting, that's what we were talking about when we were talking about how the congregations and organizations, it's a natural
Okay.
it's a natural thing to hear about, and the people they come across, and the congregations are advertising that they have this wellness program, and so that's how people find out about it.
Okay.
Janie, I'll tell you a story. I got a phone call here at the church office about 3 weeks ago, and it was a gentleman that I've never met before. He introduced himself and he said, "I'm really struggling right now." And I went to the HR department at my company and they referred me to you because you're a wellness champion and your church has gone through Bridges to Care. And so this was a gentleman out of the blue who called me. We had a conversation and I was able to get him connected to multiple resources within our community, of which he availed himself of. And so that's how it happens. It's very much word of mouth and through trusting conversations that people then get referred to a wellness champion or a congregation that's gone through Bridges to Care training, and then we can refer them to the resources that are more localized for them.
Believe me, there's no lack of people that need help. They, especially with this pandemic going on, there's so much out there that people need help with, and mental health is just the tip of the iceberg. And we have no lack of people to help, believe me.
Let me also connect the dots here, because as these wellness champions finish their training, their initial 5 modules, we also make them aware during the training that NAMI has family-to-family classes, peer-to-peer classes, basics, and has support groups. And for some of the people that are going through these training classes, they may be very good candidates for some of the NAMI classes. We also offer and make known other seminars, webinars, other resources that are available. And so each congregation can help pick the kind of resources that they want to publicize and make their members aware of. And does Bridges to Care have a flyer that someone could take to their clergy or leadership? Jerry, do we have a flyer or a PDF that we can make available?
Not right now, but we will tomorrow.
Any other questions? I just want to say, without Jerry and Veron and Justin, we wouldn't be anywhere. We'd be in the starting blocks, still waiting to get started. But the commitment that everybody has shown, and the community partners who work with us, like the Center for Healthcare Services, like the Ecumenical Center, the Trauma Informed Care Institute, and a number of others, they have really stepped up, and they're making this program work. And what's really working is connecting, breaking down the silos, and improving communication across our community so that people can get help when they need help. And that's a big part of what I think we're accomplishing. Justin, do you or Veron or Jerry want to say anything in closing?
Thanks for hosting us.
I'm thankful for this movement. Like I said earlier, I wish I had had this training earlier on in my ministry, but it is one of a kind, y'all. This is a connection between faith communities, the city, the county, NAMI, other organizations. This is unheard of, that people would work together in such a significant way, and service providers as well, for the transformation of our community. Was chatting one day with a friend who's in Washington, D.C., who's a minister there at an African Methodist Episcopal Church. And he was asking me about Bridges to Care. And he said, that would never happen here. And I said, well, what do you mean? He goes, our government officials do not want to have anything to do with anyone else, in the sense of ministers working with government officials, or even putting up money together to make something like this happen. And so it's very special and very beautiful. And I'm thankful for NAMI and for Doug's leadership and for the continued movement that we have. It's a great thing. And we can't wait to even make it broader and deeper within our community.
Yeah, I'd like to say that Bridges to Care is not just creating change for the here and now, but I'm really happy to be engaged with it, because Bridges to Care is fostering generational change. So my children's children will be participating in Bridges to Care because it's that impacting. So I am really blessed to be a part of this organization.
Well, thank you all. And I think, Veron, you hit on one of the objectives we had in doing this, and that was to help change the conversation in our community about mental health. Janie, if you want to, I think you have a few things that you want to close us with, and then we'll look at announcements.
Change the slide. Next slide. Please join us next month at the September general meeting where the topic will be student mental health awareness. Next slide.
And that's my cue. I want to tell you to be sure and register for Pathways to Hope. This will be the 6th year. We didn't necessarily plan on this on being virtual again this year, but we are. Again, it's free. We have an outstanding group of speakers. There are going to be workshops, not just on Bridges to Care, but we have Representative Tim Murphy, who authored the single biggest piece of legislation in Congress on mental health in the history of Congress. He will be speaking. He'll lead off Friday morning. Dr. Paula Dobbs-Wiggins, an African-American psychiatrist from Dallas, chairman of the board of Parkland Hospital, an ordained Methodist minister, is going to address us on Saturday morning. And the list goes on. And we want to invite everybody to not only attend the conference, but to attend the workshop Saturday afternoon, beginning at 1 o'clock, networking on Bridges to Care. So we're going to take this is 1 year after last year's conference and launching Bridges to Care. And so we're going to talk about how do we move forward from here. So please, everybody, tell your friends, register, lots of workshops, always great. This will be the best year that we've had for the conference. Please attend. Anything else, Janie? Oh, thank you. The NAMI Walk, October 9th. You can register your team, all the materials out there. We're going to do a hybrid event this year. We'll have locations, and this is all on our website, but we'll have, I think, at this point, 4 locations in parks around the city where we can gather in small groups, and it will also be virtual. So you can either come out to one of the parks with your team, or you can stay online and walk virtually with us. But organize your teams. This is the single biggest fundraiser that we have for NAMI each year, and we need everybody's help. And CJ just put the address for the walk in the chat. If you need more information, either contact the office or look online. We're really pleased to be able to do this walk again this year. This has been quite a year for all of us. And we are looking forward to seeing all of you at the walk this year. Anything else, Janie?
Next slide.
Thank you.
Verna?
Yes, so we have virtual support groups. We have several different ones, and we have for co-occurring San Antonio Clubhouse. Just go to NAMISanAntonio.org to find out how to register for these classes. Next slide. We're also going to be starting one for the veterans family at Endeavors. And sorry about that, but we have one more for families that are not veterans. And that will be ran at Alamo Heights United Methodist Church. It'll be in person. So will this family support group for veterans. These will be in person. The connections right now will be going in person eventually. but for right now, they'll stay virtual. Next slide. Also, I'd like to mention real quick about go to NAMISanAntonio.org for classes, the NAMI Family to Family, Basics, and Peer-to-Peer. And we will, like Doug was saying earlier, we are going to be starting a family to family in Spanish.
And I want to thank you for joining us today. Next slide. And our General Meeting Planning Subcommittee is made of our committee staff advisor, Lori Packard, and our members, Verna Lister, Katie Martin, Donald Sheldon, and Janie Swansel. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great weekend. everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for the great resources.
Donald, stay on.
You can unshare, Donald.
Oh, okay. Did I stop the share?
Yes.
Okay. There we go. Okay. I hope that went all right.
Stop recording.